If you haven't been living under a rock lately, you're probably aware that the EVE community is awash with discussion of RMT. It's not the first time that the player base has become tightly enveloped in this discussion, and it probably won't be the last. If you know me well, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of committing some temporary drama to the permanent record of the internet. So if you're looking for a video that's going to dissect ongoing drama with naming and shaming, then this is not that. Instead, I want to take the opportunity to go through some of the more evergreen discussions that the RMT drama has raised, clearing up some classic myths about RMT, and hopefully getting everyone closer to a common understanding of the topic. First off though, I'm aware that not everyone watching this video will even know what RMT is. RMT stands for Real Money Trading. It refers to when in-game items or currency are purchased with real money without going through official channels like the EVE Online store or MarkyDragon.com. The phenomenon is far from unique to EVE, with pretty much every MMORPG having to deal with it at some level. If there's any kind of grind, whether that's for currency, item rarity, or account prestige, you can guarantee that there will also be someone out there who wants to pay real money to skip those steps. RMT is banned in EVE Online, as well as pretty much every major MMO. This, however, often comes as a surprise to a lot of new bros I speak to or EVE-curious friends, whose primary perception of EVE is that game where people do space battles worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can blame media coverage for this mostly. It's far more compelling to talk about the real-world value of these items than it is to talk about their worth in ISK or Plex. With legitimate avenues for buying in-game currency available via Plex, it's easy for journalists to work out roughly how much ISK is worth in real-world currency. A lot of this reporting unfortunately comes with the implication that the transaction works both ways, but it does not. As for why RMT is banned, there are quite a few reasons. Obviously, and quite significantly, it denies revenue to the game itself. When you buy Plex through Fenris Creations, they give you pixels that do not cost them money, at least directly. Similarly, when you buy game time through Fenris Creations, they give you access to a server that again does not incur a direct cost. Of course, that isn't pure profit. At scale, these things do come with a cost, but it's this revenue that actually makes the game any money at all. If you buy things from a player in-game, that money skips the developers completely. It's for this reason that on the very few exceptional games or platforms that do allow any kind of user-to-user real-world transaction, like Valve's Steam Marketplace system, there will be a percentage cut from every sale that ensures the platform provider is still getting compensated. These transactions also harm game balance. ISK, via Plex, already has a very complicated relationship with the real-world economy. I could rant for hours about this, and maybe will at some point in the future, but the real-world economy has significant impacts on the in-game economy simply by virtue of what subscription costs to players with real-world currency versus in-game currency. Fenris also has the ability to influence and control this though, through Plex sales, price changes, and complete control over the in-game money supply via ISK sinks and faucets. These economies are fragile, especially when you're dealing with players from all over the world. If you want an example of how broken things can get if you don't avoid this problem, just take a look at any NFT or blockchain game that featured a currency which can be exchanged for real-world money. Axie Infinity is probably the most famous example. During the COVID-19 pandemic, as the global economy was decimated by social distancing, remote work, and the shutting down of the hospitality industry, many low-income workers were suddenly on zero income. Cost of living climbed, and people were desperate to make ends meet. Due to the miracle of purchasing power parity, even with exchange rates being variable, some things are just cheaper in one place than they are in another. For example, here where I live in Lancaster, UK, a bottle of water is 36.4% cheaper than in Houston, Texas. On the other hand, petrol or gasoline is over double the price. You can see what I'm getting to here, I'm sure. Axie Infinity allowed players to, in roundabout ways, convert their in-game efforts into real money. While the amount of real money we're talking about here wouldn't be enough to entice someone living in the United States to put all their time into it, the same could not be said of the Philippines. There was a point in 2021 when full-time Axie Infinity players could realistically make more than the national average income in the Philippines with comparable time investment. Naturally though, with supply and demand, as more people tried to take advantage of this opportunity, the value of the underlying cryptocurrency plummeted, and earning money this way ceased to be viable even in countries with a favorable purchasing power parity. This decline is a part of why MMOs don't allow RMT. If they did, in-game markets would be driven into the ground over the long term as users race to make good real-life money for their in-game activities. This kind of supply influx is often irreparable without a complete reset of the game or massive changes in the use of different resources. It's also worth noting that these kind of supply influxes are only accounting for the value of human effort and time. In the world of vibe coding, being able to extract real-world money from the game highly incentivizes bots, which can continue to operate on far lower incomes than a person would find acceptable. All it takes is someone who doesn't pay for their own electricity bill, and suddenly there's basically no price floor on botting in-game to make real money. There's also a multitude of legislation and regulatory reasons that games don't allow RMT. While the laws around this are hardly set in stone, allowing or endorsing RMT could put developers in a sticky situation in terms of their relationship to their users. There may be KYC or Know Your Customer requirements that they'd have to enforce to ensure that their game isn't being used for money laundering, and suddenly any chance-based elements of their game could come under stricter scrutiny by various gambling commissions around the globe. Safe to say, all things that would create a lot of friction for a company focused on making video games that they'd rather avoid. Now you know what RMT actually is and why it's banned, let's bust some really common mess that I've been seeing lately. Myth number 1. It's hard not to accidentally RMT. This one is kind of pressing given recent drama, but it's actually a surprisingly timeless excuse. Unfortunately, it's also something I hear a lot from well-meaning yet misinformed people. If you ever think to yourself, wow, I can't do anything in this game without someone saying it's RMT, then you've either fundamentally misunderstood what RMT is, or you're playing the wrong game, and maybe you should go and play one of those aforementioned blockchain games. EVE was never designed to be an avenue for turning in-game activities into real money, and as far as we know, it never will be. At least for the main game, EVE Online. I have no idea what's going on over on EVE Frontier. If you're a new player and you're worried about getting banned for RMT, then don't be. It's very simple. Only buy your Plex from the EVE Online store or markydragon.com, and never sell your ISK, Plex, or any in-game item for real money. It's really that simple. My experience has been that the people who express frustration at EVE Online's RMT policy being too broad are usually just people who are looking for a loophole. And this helpfully leads on to my next myth. Myth number 2. I have a legal loophole. This one comes up frustratingly often, especially recently in the EVE Online subreddit. If you ever find yourself using the word technically in your explanation, you've already misunderstood how this works. I've seen people use the same logic around corp and alliance rules too. It's a very strange way of seeing the world. The truth is, there is no loophole because this is a video game, not the legal system. You do not have a right to a jury of your peers, you're not going to take this to the Supreme Court of New Eden and get a precedent set. If Fenris Creations don't like what you're doing and think it crosses the line into being RMT, you will get punished as such. It's like they say, if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it probably is a duck. This is doubly as important if you hear someone else telling you that they have some kind of special loophole. They are not to be believed. I don't care if you just started playing yesterday and the player messaging you has been playing since 2003, there is no such thing as a loophole here. Recent drama around RMT has proven to us more than ever that Fenris Creations have ultimate discretion on enforcement, no matter the wording of the terms. Myth number 3, all content creators are RMTing. This is a rather silly one that I saw someone posting about on Reddit recently. The logic goes like this. Content creators often do giveaways or fleets with their audience where in-game items are given to viewers. Content creators also make money from their views and receive donations from viewers. So aren't all content creators RMTing? No, is the simple answer. This isn't a transactional relationship, and looking back at the last myth as well, it ultimately comes down to what Fenris decide is and isn't allowed. Fenris not only allow giveaways by content creators, but actually provide EVE partners with codes to give away. And what better time than this to make an announcement? I'm an EVE partner now. Some room must have opened up recently or something, no idea how that might have happened. To support the channel, you can use creator code BILL on the EVE store and coupon code BILL on markydragon.com as always. But I have also been given some codes by Fenris Creations to give away myself. So in the spirit of proving my point here, if you're interested in 3 days of free Omega, now's your chance. I know most EVE partners give out skins, but I know I have a very new bro leaning audience. I know just how much getting Omega, even for a weekend, can mean for an alpha pilot. I have 5 codes to give away for this video, and I don't exactly have a huge audience, so you have a pretty good chance of winning. To enter, join my Discord at billpaid.me/discord, head to the giveaway channel and tell me your favorite kind of cheese as well as your in-game name. I'll give you all a few days to get involved, then I'll send an EVE mail to the winners with the codes that you can redeem on the EVE store. You can leave my Discord right after the giveaway if you like, but if you stick around you can enjoy some EVE chat and notifications whenever I upload a new video. Myth number 4. RMTing is victimless. A lot of people, after being caught RMTing, seem to leap to the excuse that it wasn't hurting anybody. Trust me, I'm far from eager to jump to the defense of the gaming industry's predominant methods of monetization, but this is simply not true. RMTing is inextricably linked to many other predatory, in some cases outright criminal behavior. The black market for ISK through RMT is a big part of what motivates malicious actors to try hacking EVE Online accounts. Whether that's Discord phishing scams or trading login info for some promised benefit, hackers strip accounts of their assets and wealth, doing their best to obscure the chain of events from Fenris and cashing out their activities by selling those assets for real money. Remember, EVE has a rule set that is very lenient to in-game scams, but this is absolutely not included. A contract scam in Jita is one thing, hacking someone's account through social engineering is another, and probably a crime where you live. Fenris does their best to track down and penalize this kind of behavior of course, but this takes time. It's very likely that once that hack has been discovered and reported by the victim, the proceeds that were sold will be removed from the buyer's account anyway, along with the buyer receiving a temporary ban. The seller then makes off with the real money, usually ensuring that transactions are done through a platform that makes it impossible or very difficult to do a refund or chargeback. Speaking of chargebacks, this is another way in which RMT is not victimless. This is a bit of a special interest of mine because dealing with chargeback fraud is my real life bread and butter when I'm not playing EVE Online. Cybercriminals will use compromised payment information to order Plex directly from legitimate vendors like the EVE Online store. They will then turn that back into real money through the black market of RMT. When the real cardholder realizes that their card has been used on the EVE store in a transaction they had no idea about, they'll open a chargeback, and it's Fenris that loses out on that money, usually obligated to give the cardholder a refund. So in situations like that, by buying ISK or any in-game items from an unauthorized seller, you are enabling some really serious, potentially life-altering fraud. If you or a family member have ever had an unexpected transaction on your card, potentially in the hundreds or thousands of dollars, you should know how distressing that experience can be, and it's a black market industry that you should not be supporting. Myth number 5. Nobody will find out. I think it goes without saying that Fenris Creations actively seeks out people violating their rules on RMT. Whether or not the punishments are sufficient or even consistent is a source of debate lately. But what I also want to make clear is that it's not just the developers and a temporary ban you have to worry about. If you get caught buying ISK or any items through RMT, Fenris Creations will send you an in-game notification warning you about this behavior. If your alliance or corporation has your account connected to an HR platform like Seat or Alliance Auth, they too will be able to see this warning communication from the developers. A lot of alliances have extremely serious consequences for this kind of behavior. Being accused of RMT is a decades-old disparagement that flies between alliances. Sometimes these accusations have merit, sometimes they're just about discrediting someone, but alliances generally do not want to give people the ammunition to make accusations like that, so you might find yourself ostracized by many in-game communities on account of your record for RMT. I can say this as a Corp CEO, we have identified, kicked, rejected, and blacklisted many people over the years for this. I even mentioned this in a previous video about those HR platforms, because this is one of the reasons a lot of corps are so keen to use them, and why it always seems very suspicious to recruiters when applicants are steadfast in not providing their API key for background checking. I'm actually working on a video at the moment with some tips and advice for people going through the corp application process. I have a lot of experience from the recruitment side of things, and there was a recent thread on r/eve about the mistakes that applicants often make, so I figure it's worth talking about. That's all I have for today though. In the interest of housekeeping, I do want to mention one last thing. As a consequence of all this recent RMT drama, Fenris Creations is going to be closely reviewing a lot of its policies for content creators. A lot of it has been running off goodwill and understanding the spirit of the rules, but as is often the case, someone had to go and spoil it for everyone else. Part of that means that until the rules have been clarified, I will no longer be able to offer members-only videos on my channel. If you're a member and you're missing out, I will totally understand if you choose to end your membership. No hard feelings there at all. I've changed the perks listed on YouTube, and I'll be doing my best to work out some kind of alternative right now. What'll probably happen is I'll make a Discord role for YouTube members, and we can do some other cool stuff that doesn't involve exclusive videos. If that doesn't work out, I'll just turn off the members function completely. I'll make a playlist for the content that used to be members only, and it will be unlisted and available in my Discord for everyone shortly after the upload of this video. If you want to help support the channel, use my code BILL on the EVE Online store or markydragon.com. For orders on the EVE Online store, this goes in the creator code box when you're selecting your payment method at checkout. There's no discount from this code or anything, but it lets Fenris know that I sent you and I get a kickback for that. For orders on markydragon.com, this code will give you 3% off your order, and you'll often find bundles and packs on the Marky Dragon store that are no longer available through any other channels, so it's definitely worth checking out if you've never ordered from there before.